ياسين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أتمان الأكملان خير خلق الله أجمعين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن ولا إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And welcome back, brothers and sisters, to this is technically the fourth lesson now of Surah Yaseen. I know it's been uploaded as the fifth lesson because last time we did two lessons in one sitting. But we'll continue inshallah. Last time we took the story of Ashab al-Qarya. The story, amazing story, many benefits, particular lessons to be taken for people doing da'wah, and we mentioned them. And today we will be finishing that story because we got to the main conclusion of that story, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about now the fate of those people after they had taken the life of that believing man, rejected their prophets. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from verse 28 onwards speaks about the fate of those Ashab al-Qarya. So we'll start from verse 28, and today I think we'll finish up to verse 36 inshallah. So we'll begin with the recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So, Surah Yaseen. Now we are getting to the very core of the message of Surah Yaseen. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended in general with the revelation of the surah. What do we say was the main theme of this surah? What was the crux, if you like, the key message of this surah? What do you mean by resurrection? Okay, so refuting the belief of the Quraysh that there is no such thing as resurrection. Yeah, so affirming this, okay, and at the same time deconstructing the arguments or the theology, the aqidah of these Quraysh and anyone like the Quraysh. Yeah, anyone like the Quraysh who holds that same belief. And we said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reaffirms key concepts, key imaniyat in the Quran from many different angles and perspectives. The direct approach, which we saw in the beginning of the surah, and then through a story, a beautiful story of Ashab al-Qaryah. So when we finish the conclusion of the story, you will then see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then takes another approach. And this approach, we will see, is to detail to those people and to all of mankind the beauty and the precision and detail within His creation. And on that basis does Allah then formulate an argument to put forward to these people. Okay, and we'll come to that inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in concluding the story of Ashab al-Qaryah, said, وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ مِن بَعْدِهِ مِن جُنْدٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَمَا كُنَّا مُنزِلِينَ. Now that they have killed and taken the life of that believing man who came to them from Aqsa al-Madinah, they have committed now a major crime. Not only have they rejected the message, but they've also killed the messengers. This now triggers the consequence. What is the consequence for committing this crime? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ, that we have not sent down, we, Allah referring to majestic self, عَلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ, to His people. Who is the dhamir here referring to? The man, the rajul. Allah is saying, we haven't sent down upon the nation of that man that you have just killed, min ba'dihi, after you have taken his life. And we said that the way that they took his life, subhanallah, Al-Qurtubi mentioned many ways reported. One of them is that they trampled on him, until he died, basically. Others said that they burned him. Others said that they threw him into a well, a ras, and that's why they got called Ashab al-Ras. So now that you have done that, we will not send down upon these people of this man, min jund. Now, Tabari rahimahullah gave two views as to what jund here means. That Allah is saying, we never sent down to these people a jund after this crime. The two views are, number one, risala, that Allah will not send now another message to them, or a nabi. Okay, this is the first view. Either Allah is saying that I will not send to them now after they've done this crime another message or another prophet. The second view is Allah saying, I will not send another army who will come and destroy these people. Okay, now jund in the second view is referring to, Wallahu alam, another people, another group of believing people, that He will not send them and punish them by the hands of these believers and destroy them. Min as-sama. Now this is where the two views are looked at. Which one seems to be more accurate? At-Tabari, he said that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will not send down jund min as-sama, from the heavens, it shows that perhaps the first view is not really the stronger view, because if Allah is saying will not send down to them another messenger from the heavens, but Allah doesn't send messengers from the heavens. He doesn't send messengers from the heavens. That's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about prophets in the Quran. He might send down revelation from the heavens, but not prophets. So He said that the most preponderant opinion, or the stronger view, is that Allah is saying He will not send another group of people, another group of believers, warriors, to finish off these people. وَمَا كُنَّا مُنزِلِينَ, and we would not do that. Now this ayah in general is showing us, as Al-Tabari said, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The anger of Allah over His believing man that these people killed him. And also the desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take vengeance upon the death of His believing slave. That this is how you dealt with my slave. I will not, as I have done before, وَمَا كُنَّا مُنزِلِينَ, this is another opinion, as I have dealt with those other nations that came before, I sent to them angels who came to destroy them, or a flood, or other believers that came to destroy them. No. You are not deserving of that. Ibn Āshūr said this shows that Allah is saying they're not worth you're not worth me destroying you in that way. Rather, your lowly status necessitates that I destroy you in كانت إلا صيحة, with just one violent scream. That is what you are worth now. Yeah, this is the, if you like, the spirit behind the ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us about these people, how He looked at them with anger, wanting to exact vengeance upon them, and then telling us that they're not even deserving of me destroying them like I've destroyed others before them. Rather, in كانت إلا صيحة واحدة. Okay. However, Qurtubi mentioned that for Jund there is another opinion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to this view, is saying that He will not send down angels to destroy them, or even angel. They're not even deserving of that. Now we know that previous nations like that of Lut alayhi salam were destroyed by Jibreel alayhi salam. He came and with the tip of his wing He destroyed them. We know that in Badr, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims were helped by the sending of angels. Ya alf min al malaikati murdifin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we sent to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, referring to the day of Badr, angels. How many? 1,000. Murdifin, meaning in rank, coming down one after the other, one after the other. Imagine that on the battlefield. Angels are coming down, 1,000 of them, rank after rank. So, a question. Okay, a question. Yani, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala need to send down support to the Prophet ﷺ with angels? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have dealt with the Quraysh on that day like He dealt with Ashab al-Qarya with sayhatan wahida, one violent scream. Yeah? So how comes sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like in the case of Badr, sends down angels to help the believers, when He could have done it like this, destroyed them in such an easier way, one violent scream? Why do you think that that was the case, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down not just one angel but 1,000 angels, when one angel could have sufficed, or even could have done it without the angels? Anyone can hazard a guess for this. Why do you think? What the two brothers have mentioned here together is the answer, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending 1,000 angels was to show the Muslims that you have support in a very real way, in a way that they can experience. You know, some of the Muslims, they said that they went to strike their whip on some of those enemies of the Quraysh, and they found that the person fell off the horse even before the whip reached their bodies. Another Muslim, an Ansari, comes to the Prophet ﷺ and says that I have captured this man, and this man who he's referring to was a giant. And the man was saying to the Prophet ﷺ, no, he didn't capture me, it was another man wearing a white garment, bald. And the Ansari said, no, I captured him. I'm the one who took him. And the man said, no, I might be a prisoner of war, but it wasn't this person, this guy is small. He didn't. So the Prophet ﷺ said that you was aided by an angel. Okay, so in order for them to experience that support, and moreover, as an honor, an honoring, imagine that behind you you have 1,000 angels sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What an honor. Yeah. And the third is that, as the brother said, Allah was not decreed that He will never destroy a nation, disbelieving nation, after Musa alayhi salam, except through the hands of the believers. So even at Badr, the Quraysh were not killed off by angels. The angels only helped the believers in defeating them. Remember that narration? The man said, I went to crack my whip upon the disbeliever. Before my whip touched his body, he fell off the horse. Aha! So they were helping the believers. They weren't taking on the task of destroying the disbelievers. Anyway, that was a side point. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us exactly how that these people were destroyed. إِن كَانَتْ إِلَّا صَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً فَإِذَا هُمْ خَامِدُونَ. That it was just sayha. A sayha refers to a piercing scream, a cry. Yeah? A piercing scream or cry. So it's an audible type of sound that is piercing, and Allah said that was given wahida, just once. Once that happened, فَإِذَا هُمْ خَامِدُونَ. Then they became khamidun. Now what does khamidun mean? Okay, now when you mention sayha alongside khamud, it creates this imagery. Okay, khamud refers to usually the lantern. You know the lantern with the short piece of string that's lit, the flame there? When it is blown out all of a sudden by a gush of air, that is khamud. That is khamud. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, subhanAllah, in detail that this sayha came and they were khamud. Just like the nar, the fire, becomes extinguished with one gush of air. And that shows us two things. The first is the speed at which Allah hastened the punishment. The punishment came like that. That's why they said فَإِذَا, the إِذَا here is the إِذَا of فُجَائِيَّة, إِذَا of suddenness. Now when you say إِذَا, all of a sudden, hum khamidun, that they were like this khamidun, extinguished, like the lantern is extinguished by the gush of air. So the first linguistic point is that Allah is telling us the speed at which this punishment came, and also the way in which they became extinguished as well. Okay, like a flame. Now, this type of usage of these words tells us that these people were obliterated, that there was no trace of them ever left afterwards. Okay, these people from Antakya, as we said, all the Mufassirun agreed that these people were the people of Antakya. These people were utterly destroyed, obliterated, and there was no trace of them left for anyone to see of after that. The next verse, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. Somebody is saying, Ya hasra, and we will explain what hasra is. Ala al-ibad, hasra upon the servants. Which servants? There are two views. Hasra upon the servants, meaning those messengers or the believing man, or hasra upon those servants, meaning ashab al-qaryah. What does hasra mean? Hasra means regret and anguish. Therefore, ya hasratan ala al-ibad could have been said by the messengers. There were three messengers. When they witnessed how that rajul, that believing man, was killed in front of them by their people. If that is the case, then the meaning is that they were saying how they regretted for their people what they had done in terms of a crime. You know, they were saying, woe to these people, woe to these people, look at what they have done. Or it could have been said by the rajul himself. After he has been killed, he's saying hasra, you know, how I regret or how I feel the anguish over the crime of my people. But if we say we go for the other view, that no, this is the statement of those ashab al-qaryah themselves, that they are saying this. What does that mean? It means, as Qurtubi said, that when the adhab is being brought to them in the akhirah, then they will think about what they did and experience hasra at that moment. Now they said hasra, it has this meaning of regret, but it's more than that. It's regret at something that you can't rectify, subhanallah. You can't rectify it, now there's no way out now. Hasra. And it's more than just regret. It's one level above that. It's more intense. It's like anguish. That, man, why did I do that? Imagine that. That they, when they see the punishment being brought to them, subhanallah, may Allah save us from anything like that, that they will then begin to regret how we treated that man, how we killed him and rejected, more importantly, his message. And they will experience hasra. And that is just one element of adhab in akhirah. You know, the adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has many, many elements. The dunyawi, that firstly, they were destroyed by the sayha, piercing cry. They've been punished. And now, after resurrection, another form of punishment. But before they have been thrown into the fire, the regret itself is another form of psychological punishment, isn't it? That they are feeling hasra. How I wish I never did that. مَا يَأْتِيهِمْ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that مَا يَأْتِيهِمْ مِنْ رَسُولٍ. In a more general sense, people like Ashab al-Qaryah, disbelieving people, the case is that whenever a prophet would come, their response would be إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. They would mock him. They would make istihza of him. They would reject him by way of mockery. Okay? So they said that mir rasul, min here is the min of istighraq, meaning Allah is now broadening the meaning of this ayah. That yes, we are speaking about Ashab al-Qaryah, but the reality is this is, if you like, symbolic of all of those other nations of the past. How they used to respond in a very similar way. مَا يَأْتِيهِمْ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. That the way they would respond is by rejecting through mockery. Now this then, if the Quraysh were listening to this, it's a message for them to take. That is, if this is the case of Ashab al-Qaryah, now Allah is telling us that this is the way of the people of the past as well, then should we not take heed of that? Should we not take a lesson from that? Should we not also change our ways before we experience a hasra like they experienced a hasra? And should we not save ourselves from the sayhatan wahida, the punishment, just like unlike those people who did not manage to save themselves from such a punishment. So if you like, the indirect approach here, Quraysh listening to the story, now the story is coming to the end, and now they are being told the message: save yourselves from that punishment. Don't be like this with the Prophet ﷺ. There will be a time when you will regret this, you will feel hasra. Hasra also, I forgot to mention, it has this connotation of being incapacitated. What does that mean? It means that when somebody regrets something so intensely and really blames himself to such a great level, he then reaches a point where he can't do anything anymore. He just shuts down. You know, like for example, when somebody goes through trauma, you know, they go through something very traumatic. If that trauma is not dealt with psychologically, that person becomes anxious. He experiences anxiety, thinking about what happened to him, why did it happen, thinking about maybe blaming himself or somebody else. Now if that anxiety is not controlled, that then develops into depression. When a person goes from depression and doesn't have that treated, he then goes to another level, which is called bipolar depression, where he goes through manic phases and he goes through low phases. At this point, the person literally is incapacitated. He's no longer the person he once was. He doesn't think in the same way, doesn't speak in the same way, he behaves totally differently, like a mute person. He's just reached a stage where he's just given up, incapacitated. Now, this hasra was mentioned in many places in the Quran. One place in the Quran is mentioned is Surah Al-Mulk. Okay? وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ. Hasir, the same word. Now look at it with this in mind now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the disbelievers, the Quraysh, look at the heavens above you. Look at the beautiful sky I have created. هَلْ تَرَى مِن فُطُورٍ. Do you see any gaps, any inconsistencies up there? What do you see? That great canopy of stars above you. فَارْجِعْ. Look again. كَرَّتَيْن. Keep on looking. يَنْقَلِبُ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ خَاسِئًا وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ. That in this process, Allah is telling him, keep on looking, look again, look again. He begins to see the beauty of Allah's creation. And as he does, he then thinks to himself, woe to me for ever doubting Allah, ever doubting the power of Allah. وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ. And then he reaches this point of hasra. Now he's incapacitated. Now he thinks, whoa, this is how bad of me to be like this, you know. So the beauty of the words, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to describe to us the fate of those people. And that was the end. Now the narrative, if you like, or the way Allah is speaking becomes more general. Now it becomes to broaden out a little bit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next verse, أَلَمْ يَرَوْا كَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا قَبْلَهُمْ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. Tabari mentioned that Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ that see these mushrik people of yours, just like those before them, Aad and Thamud, how we destroyed them and those before them. Why did we destroy them? Because they disbelieved in our messengers and our signs. So أَلَمْ يَرَوْا كَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا قَبْلَهُمْ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. Now if you look at the last part, أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. What does that mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that those Quraysh, they need to be told that those other nations of the past, which they know of, Thamud and Aad, are not going to come back to them. Meaning they are not going to somehow reappear on this earth. Now Ibn Kathīr mentioned that perhaps, if I have understood this correctly, part of the belief of Quraysh was in reincarnation. That some of them believe that it is possible, or maybe it is the case, that people come back into the dunya after they have been destroyed, or after they have died. So with these words, Allah Jalla wa Ala is not only telling them that we have wiped them out, but also that your belief that somehow people will be reincarnated is false. أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. Now going back to the ayah. Do they not see how we have destroyed those before them? مِنَ الْقُرُونَ. You see here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have you not seen, or have they not seen? In Arabic, just a side point, Rā'ī, to see, has two connotations. The first is to see with the eye, literally to see with the naked eye, or to witness. The second is bil qalb, with the heart. That have you not seen those people of the past? And how can they see the people of the past? No, the second meaning. Have you not seen, do you not envisage? You know, because you Quraysh, you know about those people. You've heard about this story. You know. Have you not seen? Meaning, can you not recollect what you know of those people? And this teaches us something. See how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the fact, or using the knowledge of these people, their culture, their history, as a way of preparing the argument. Yeah? Quraysh, they had heard about the nations Ad and Thamud, and they also knew about how they were destroyed. Based on that knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now you think about that. You know about that, and you know also that I am the one who destroyed them. Now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alam yaraw kam is usually used for, multitude. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, how many nations who came before you, ahlakna, Allah referring to himself, that we have destroyed. Min al-qurun, qurun, plural of qarn, okay, usually translate as century. Qarn is a century, 100 years, but in Arabic, qarn doesn't always refer to 100 years. It can refer to 80 years, it can refer to 60 years, or 40 years rather, and it also can refer to generation. So how many of those nations that came before you, the previous generations, that we have destroyed? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after stating this as a warning to them, says, أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. Now the simple Arabic of saying this statement is not like this. In simple Arabic you would say, أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ إِلَيْهِمْ, that they are not coming back to you. Okay? But Allah said, أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. What does that tell us? It tells us that Allah is saying, in English we would translate the first as, and they are not coming back to you. The second way, the way Allah said it, is that to you they are not coming back. And there's an implication here, that they're not coming back to you, إِلَيْنَا مَرْجِعُهُمْ, that they're not coming back to you, they're coming back to us. Okay? There's a very subtle linguistic point there, that this taqdeer, bringing forward some of the words out of their places, is a form of balāgha. And that balāgha, it has another subtle point, which is this implied meaning, that by the way, they're not coming back to you, they're coming back to me. They're going to be resurrected and gathered with me. And that is why the next verse then speaks about resurrection itself. Yeah, the next verse is وَإِن كُلُّ لَمَّا جَمِيعٌ لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ, meaning that all of them, جَمِيع, all of them, لَدَيْنَا, Allah referring to His majestic self, لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ, that they are going to be muhdarun to me. Now there's a word in English that accurately translates this word muhdarun, it is assigned. Yeah, assigned. What is the translation you have there? Someone to our presence is not very accurate, because muhdarun here, the word assigned, ASSIGN, refers to a person who's been brought to court in order to answer for his crime. And this is the tafsīr Tabari gave, that Allah is saying that they will all those previous nations that were destroyed before you, Ashab al-Qaryah included, and you, O Quraysh, will be brought to me in order that I recompense you for the good you have done and the evil that you have done. All of them together. Now let's look at the words here. In kullu lamma jami'. Ibn Āshūr, he mentioned a very nice point here. He said that the word jami', it comes from the word majmu', which means to bring together. Bring together things that were mutafarriq, that they were scattered. They were scattered, and now I made jam'a of them, I brought them all together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring to all those previous nations, as if to say they lived many generations before you, in different places, some here, some over there. And though time and space separates them greatly, they will all be coming to me, and I will gather them all together. Kullu here as well, in kullu lamma jami', has this sense of all-encompassing, that I will bring them all together and not one of them will be able to escape. Subhanallah. Not one of them will be missed out or will be able to escape. This is a point made by Ibn Āshūr when he said the use of kullu and jami' together give us this understanding that Allah will bring them all together even though they are separated by time and space, and moreover, not one of them will escape. So here Allah then is very clearly now the story has gone, now very clearly stating the fact and affirming that there is such a thing as resurrection. And more to the point, the reason why you will be resurrected is muhdarun, in order that I will take you to account for the way that you lived. That is the real meaning behind resurrection, to take the people to account. Did they believe or did they disbelieve? How did they act? What were their deeds? And then the recompense follows on from that. Okay. Now, the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now laying down the foundation for the reasoning behind why resurrection is true. Anyone who doubts that resurrection is an impossibility or it is unlikely, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing those people through a very powerful argument, in order to convince the people that it is true. Now look at the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ الْأَرْضُ الْمَيْتَةُ أَحْيَيْنَاهَا وَأَخْرَجْنَا مِنْهَا حَبًّا فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ. And another ayah to them. Who is them here? Ibn Āshūr said this refers to وَضْرِبَ لَهُمْ مَثَلًا أَصْحَابُ الْقَرْيَةِ. وَضْرِبَ لَهُمْ, and narrate to them, meaning the Quraysh. So ayatul lahum, he says, is now an address to the Prophet ﷺ. Now another ayah for those people, those Quraysh, is the following. Al-ardul mayta, this barren earth. Imagine that. It could be desert, it could be soil, whatever it is, it's just barren. There's no life on there whatsoever. Picture that. Ahyaynaha. Then we, ahyayna, Allah referring to His majestic, so we bring it back to life. وَأَخْرَجَنَا مِنْهَا حَبًّا, and we take out from it a hab. A hab is translated as seed or grain, and it is the very earliest stages of growth. It is the small, just a seed, the hab. Now the hab itself, the seed or the grain, in and of itself, even before growth has taken place, is of benefit to us. Grain, for example, could refer to rice, could refer to barley, could refer to corn. All of those things are of benefit, even though they haven't even taken on their life form yet, which is the plant and the tree. So out of this dead earth we bring forth first hab. فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ, and from this hab do you all eat. Do you all eat? فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ. Now here we have to speak about hab itself. That how come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentioned the hab? Now the intended meaning behind this verse is that, look, I not only bring back to life the dead earth, but what I bring back to life is also giving life to others. Subhanallah. Al-hab is something that you not only eat, you store rice, you store this barley, and then you eat from it. فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُ, and then you take from it, then you eat from it. It's like this. It's more than just saying I bring this dead earth back to life. What I bring it back to life with is something that you benefit from. It's something that gives you life. And the hab is the most basic form of food, the staple diet. If someone doesn't have hab, they're starving. If they can't afford to have hab, the basic corn, the rice, means that they don't have food. They're starving. Okay, so we give you the most basic thing. Then in the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then mentions not only hab, nakhil, which is the date palm, and a'nab, the grapevine as well. So here they make a comparison. Okay, first hab, then the date, and then the grape. What is the comparison here? The comparison is as follows. The hab is the cheapest form of food. Yeah, it's the cheapest form of food. It's a staple food. Then we move on to the finer things that the Quraysh, would eat, which is the date palm, the dates themselves. Even in our times now, dates, they have many classes. There's many classes of dates, and some of them are extremely expensive. So these are the finer foods now. And then a level above even the dates is the grape. The grape was, something very rare to find in, desert Arabia. To have grapes means that you're a very well-off individual, you can enjoy grapes. So, based on that, they said that hab refers to something very basic that you are benefiting from. فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ again has this taqdeer, that the simple Arabic way of saying فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ, and from it you eat, is to say يَأْكُلُونَ مِنْهُ, and you are eating from it. But the way Allah said it, فَمِنْهُ, first He said the hab. This hab that I have given you, you are eating from this. Bringing the attention more to the source of benefit that Allah is highlighting. This is the benefit that I have given you. Yeah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the next verse, وَجَعَلْنَا فِيهَا جَنَّاتٍ, and not only did we bring it back to life with these grains, these very small forms of life, we then also made jannat. We made these jannat, which refers to bustan, gardens. So some places you have the desert, the barren earth. Then you have places where there's some forms of life. And then over there, you've got these gardens. Yeah, these jannat. Didn't say jannah, one garden. Jannat, many gardens out there. Now in those gardens, you enjoy other things. What do you enjoy? Min nakhil wa a'nab. That you enjoy nakhil, which is the plural of nakhl, date. And you enjoy grapes, a'nab, plural of inab. Okay. Now, not only did the Arabs of that time eat dates as part of their diet, but they also used to benefit from the actual tree itself. They would cut off its trunk, use it to, erect their buildings. They would use the branches in order to make the roofs of some of their buildings as well. So not only do you eat, that you are using this in many different ways. You're benefiting it from your stomach, and also your livelihood, the way that you live. You make your shelters from it as well. So starting off with something very small, hab. Now this hab, I bring it to life and it becomes a tree. The seed now takes on life and becomes a tree. So there is growth there. Who is doing all of this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as Tabari mentioned, all of this growth and diversity is happening because Allah is sending down the rain in the first place. Now remember that, because we'll come back to this point, that all of this cycle of life is being triggered through rainfall. Okay? So they have the nakhil and they have the a'nab. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفَجَّرْنَا فِيهَا مِنَ الْعُيُونِ, and we have also opened up for them, or gushing forth for them, we have made these uyun, rivers. Okay, so first it was food and now it's drink. In the beginning we said the three different types of food came by rank. The most basic of them going to the most exotic of them. But what do human beings need more? Water or food? Need water. You can't survive without water for, I think, 3 days. That's what they say. But food, you can go without food for a lot longer. So if it's about what human beings need the most, then how comes water wasn't mentioned in the beginning? How comes it mentioned at the end? Can anyone think of an answer for this? Did you get the question? Yeah, if it's about necessity, Allah saying you need the hab, this is your basic thing, you need that, I've given you that. And more than that, the dates, and more than that, the grapes. But then the water is something you need more than all of that, but it's coming at the end. What they said is that accessibility. These foods that we have mentioned, they require some work. They require some work. You need to cultivate the land, the watering, etc. And then you have the food. But as for water, water is there gushing out for you. It is so easy for you to drink that water, despite the fact that it is the most needed thing for you as well. I made the thing that you need the most, the easiest for you to take, subhanAllah. وَفَجَّرْنَا, this word fajjar, it has this connotation of gushing out, of being plentiful, of just being overflowing, just coming out. It's just there. Rivers, wells, streams. Even those Arabs in the desert, they had oases. They had wells. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala catered for the needs of His creatures in such a beautiful way, that what they needed the most, He made the easiest for them to access. Do you see how this is proving to be a very powerful argument for those Quraysh and those people like them? Because at the heart of their disbelief is a misunderstanding and an underestimation of the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the crux. That they have underestimated the power of Allah. Had they known of His power, they would never have doubted His ability to resurrect them. That is the crux. So Allah Jalla wa Ala painting the picture, if you like, that look at the way I've created all of these things for you. Life coming down from rain. This is one ingredient. Water, one ingredient. But from water, you have hab, you have nakhil, you have a'nab. You have many things to enjoy and sustain yourself with, and it all came back from just one source, one ingredient. Isn't that strange? Because when we want to cook something, we bring many ingredients to make one meal. When you want to make a cake, okay, you bring many ingredients, the flour, the egg, icing, etc., etc., the sugar, all of these things, and you end up with one thing at the end, one cake. But look at the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Water, one ingredient, and then all of this life comes about. Amazing. And then after stating all of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَأْكُلُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ وَمَا عَمِلَتْهُ أَيْدِيهِمْ أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Now Allah telling them clearly that I created all of this, all of these resources. Why? لِيَأْكُلُوا, so that you may take from it, you may enjoy it, you may eat it. مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ, from these fruits. وَمَا عَمِلَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. Now there's two views as to what these words mean. وَمَا عَمِلَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. The first view is that you eat from these fruits and what you also make with your hands. The second view is ma is of negation, nafi. Yeah, so according to this view, it's you eat of those fruits even though you never brought that into creation with your own hands. Do you get the two views? Ma mawsula, you eat of the fruits and what you make with your hands, which means that these raw ingredients, you enjoy them and you use them for many things. Qurtubi mentioned some of those things. For example, you cook with them, you make your own food, you make your own meals, and for ilaj, and for medicine as well. You use these fruits in order to make medicinal things, to treat yourself when you are ill and others. So وَمَا عَمِلَتْهُ أَيْدِيهِمْ. So you use your hands in order to derive more benefits from these. The second view is no. Allah is just reaffirming that all of this, مَا عَمِلَتْهُ أَيْدِيهِمْ. You never created any of this. None of this came into being because of you. It was because of me. Based on that, all of this beautiful detail, all of this life, أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Will you then not show some gratitude? Will you not be grateful? Now, what's interesting is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Will you not then believe? Which seems like that is where the argument is going, for the people to believe. But Allah mentioned something else. أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Will you not be grateful then? Now of course it makes sense, because Allah is telling the people that we have created all of this for your own benefit, and you are using this in a very basic way in order to survive and enjoy your life. Now all of that is because of me. أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Will you then not be grateful to me? Yeah, will you not then make shukr? You see, Allah created us and He knows how we think. He knows that when a person is told, I have done this for you, I have done this for you, I have given you this, and I have helped you like this, over and over again, the person begins to feel like they should do something back now, to reciprocate. This person helped me in so many ways, should I then not also show something back in any form? In a very basic form, which would be just to say, Alhamdulillah, thank you Allah, to make shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very, if you like, simple yet profound, because this is the way we think, this is the way we behave, we respond and behave, based on this, that when someone tells you that I've done all of this for you, you immediately feel the need to then respond by showing some gratefulness. However, the shukr has a connection with iman. It does. Because there is only one way in which to properly show gratefulness to God, and that is to worship Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no point saying thank you God and then going about doing shirk with Him. That doesn't make sense. There's no point thanking God and then doing everything that He's told you not to do. It doesn't make sense. So shukr does have a connection with iman. A person who wanted to do shukr properly to Allah, he would first think to himself, I should believe in Him properly. And then I should take the message of His Prophet, and I should live according to His book as well. Surely this is, the very essence of showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now the last verse. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. Now after we have told you everything in detail, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moves away from them. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج. That glory be to the one who created things in pairs, not just things, kullaha, all things in pairs. Allah, if you like, absolving Himself from this filthy ideology that they believe that I have a rival, they believe I don't have the power to resurrect them. Subhanallah. Glory be to Allah, meaning Allah is far removed from anything of that sort. Yeah, this is what it means, say Subhanallah. Allah is free, absolved, purged from all of these shortcomings that you people are attributing to Him. Allah is far above that. Allah transcends all of that. So now I have told you, now I'm turning away from you. I want nothing to do with those things that you claim about me. Subhanalladhi khalaqal azwaja kullaha mimma tunbitul ard. So Allah then said, after He glorified Himself, then related to us that He creates things in pairs. Now, there's three things that Allah said I have created in pairs. Okay? This is what follows now. Mimma tunbitul ard, that in the earth, that barren earth that we are speaking about, and that life, those things have come about in pairs. That this system, of rain falling, leading to a hab, and that hab then going on to become a tree of date palms and grapes. All of this cycle is occurring over and over again. If you look at every element of it, you'll find that there are two things working alongside by side. That this whole ecosystem, if you like, if you go down to every organism or species in that cycle, you'll find that there are things working in pairs. And that is something that biologists have come to know of now. We studied that there are some plants, they are known as asexual, meaning that there's not a male and female. And by the way, the pollination of plants, that is the pairing of the plants, the male and the female. But some plants, they don't pollinate. They said they are asexual. And what they meant by that is that if you look at the makeup of those plants, they have in them parts or organs that are male and female. That they have these two complementary parts. So they, if you like, reproduce by themselves without needing to go to an external male plant or female plant. So down to every single level, things are happening in pairs. This is from the signs of Allah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the beginning, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ. So this is another sign, that خَلَقَ الْأَزْوَاجَ كُلَّهَا مِمَّا تُنْبِتُ الْأَرْضِ. So that's the first thing. The earth itself, those plants that are coming about and growing, they are happening because they are two entities coming together, complementary. Azwaj, the plural of zawj, it doesn't just mean husband and wife. The general meaning is pairs. Pairs. So they are things that are growing on the earth that are happening in pairs. The second now, وَمِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. Okay, now move away from the land and the growth and the plants. Now look at your own selves. Even your own selves, you are surviving through reproduction, which is happening because you are made in azwaj, pairs. You have your families because of the coming together of these pairs. Look at how I made those things in pairs, and I also have made you in pairs. And then the third, وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, Qurtubi said it can refer to other things in general. Creatures that live on the land, on the sea, and even in the sky. All of those things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you don't know most of those things, but even those things out there, I have created them in pairs as well. Now this, is sending a message that look at your level of knowledge. You know next to nothing. But yet, the detail and beauty in my creation is not just amazing, but it goes beyond your knowledge. So my knowledge is a sign of my supreme power. And my supreme power should lead you to believe and to accept that you will be resurrected. You will be resurrected, and there is no doubt about that. Okay. Now, there were some linguistic points here I wanted to mention. Tumbitul ard, I think Ibn Āshūr mentioned this point. He said it refers to nabat, i.e. the varying plant shoots. So he said that these varying plant shoots, that not only does azwaj mean pairs, but it means variety. It means variety. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, look, it's not just about one type of plant. There's so many. They are so numerous. There are so many different types, colors, size, and they produce so many different things of which you all are benefiting from. Okay, so azwaj here, it also has the meaning of variety or diversity. Okay, let me read to you actually the last point Ibn Āshūr mentioned. He said that this statement, referring to the last ayah, is built on the meaning of the previous passages about giving life to the barren earth, the coming forth of grains, and then the plants and trees from those seeds. This amazing cycle of life, growth, death, and then life again, all points to the wisdom behind the one who created it like that. A crucial part of that cycle or ecosystem is that there are pairs, azwaj, within each layer of organisms that make up the ecosystem. This whole cycle functions because the pairs play complementary roles, idmaj, meaning they all come together, fuse together. Based on this all, Allah is certainly above and transcends all the claims of the Quraysh that Allah has rivals or that He does not have the ability to resurrect man. Allah's greatness necessitates that you don't ascribe any defect or shortcoming to Him. Very nice, very powerful. Now on this point I wanted to make a final conclusion. You know, brothers and sisters, when you learn about Tawheed, many times we start off by talking about the different categories of Tawheed. Tawheed, Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, Asma wa Sifat. This is a very academic approach to speaking about Tawheed. However, we should look at how Allah Jalla wa Ala spoke about Tawheed in the Quran. And based on how Allah spoke about it, we should also try to teach our children, non-Muslims, and even ourselves about Tawheed in that very manner. Now, if you look, for example, in Surah Yunus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the shirk of the Nasara. He said, قَالَ اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا, that they say Allah has taken a son. But before Allah mentioned their statement of shirk, and before refuting it, He mentioned His signs. He mentioned His power. He said, لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, that every single thing in the heavens and the earth belongs to Him. Amazing. He is the absolute owner of every single thing in creation. The power of Allah, ta'zeem of Allah, the greatness of Allah. First, that is being put out there. This is the spirit, if you like, that you need to create first. First, speaking about the greatness of Allah. Then a person has an understanding of how great Allah is, or an appreciation rather. On that basis now, or after that, then Allah mentioned in one verse only that they say about Allah that He took a son. They made shirk with Allah. How did Allah refute that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Subhana, glory be to Him. Far above is He than that claim. You underestimated the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Had you known the qudra of Allah, His greatness, you would never have said that. Huwa al-ghani. Allah then said He is al-ghani, meaning He has no need to have a son. He doesn't need to have a son. He is far removed from that. Why do you human beings have sons? In order to carry on your lineage, or in order so that son one day will grow up to help you, Huwa al-Ghani. He doesn't need any of that. He's far above that. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do you see how Allah is teaching us about Tawheed? That before you recognize Allah as the Lord of all, the one who deserves all worship, and that He has some exclusive names and attributes, you first need to build all of this upon an appreciation of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now once you come at it from this angle, you find that the message enters very easily and it settles in the heart, and moreover it brings about a conviction. When someone thinks, yes, it's true, Allah, He is the greatest, there is no one greater than Allah, this means something. Something follows on from that. It means that He is the Lord of all, taking care of all His creation, because He's so great. This is something that only He could do, Rabbul Alameen, take care of all of His creation. And if He is the greatest, it must mean that I shouldn't turn to anyone else in worship except the greatest one. And it must mean that everything else therefore is insignificant in the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I should only worship Him, to set up a rival with Him, or to give my devotion, my love, my veneration, my awe to other than Him. It doesn't make sense, because that thing is insignificant in the face of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if He is the greatest, it means some of His attributes no one else could ever have. No one else could ever be Al-Alim, the all-knowing. Only Allah, the greatest, could be all-knowing. So do you see? One thing that we learn from these passages is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reasoned with mankind. It is a reasoning that the educated person as well as the lay person can appreciate. Did you get that point? That the Bedouin Arab can appreciate this argument as well as the one who is educated, living here in the 21st century. This is the power, if you like, of the speech of Allah. That it relates to every single person. Doesn't matter what their background is, or what time or place that they lived. So based on that, we can take a lesson as well in da'wah, that you don't need to be overly academic when it comes to giving da'wah. Nor do you need to simplify these things down so much. Look at the detail here. You know, the hab, the nakhil, the a'nab, the water. How Allah, in a very sophisticated way, is telling us about the beauty behind His creation. But all of that is gearing up to a very simple point. Allah is the greatest. Allah is the greatest. And now that is something that everyone can appreciate. Based on that, then we can build on many other things. Tayyib. This last point is a very important point. When we spoke about the Rajul min Aqsa al-Madina, this believing man, we spoke about how he argued with his people, how he tried to convince them of the truthfulness of the messengers. We spoke about how he built up the argument slowly. First, indirectly he spoke. He spoke indirectly by speaking his mind out loud. He wasn't speaking to them directly. He said, وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. It's not becoming of me. He's saying to himself, it's not becoming of me to worship other than the one Fatari who created me, brought me into existence. And then he went to become one step further and be more direct. أَأَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِهِ آلِهَةً إِن يُرِدَنِ الرَّحْمَنُ بِضُرٍّ. Then he said, okay, does it make sense that I take another deity beneath Allah to worship when it can't benefit me or harm me? He's beginning to be more direct here. And then finally, inni amantu. I have believed. I have believed, and I announce to you my belief, bi rabbikum, by your Lord. Okay, now this is the most direct approach. Fasma'un, so bear witness to my faith. So we spoke about taraqqi. Now I want to speak about the use of illah and hikmah in arguing. Illah is the conclusion of the argument. You need to believe in the resurrection. This is the illah. In terms of arguing, not in terms of fiqh, in terms of arguing or debating. Illah is the final conclusive point. A father wants to say to his child, you need to pray. So he says to them, you have to pray. This is the illah. The hikmah, if you like, the reasoning behind this is, look, Allah created us. He gives us all of these things that we like, that we love. Everything that we are enjoying comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, you should pray. Now, what is more effective? To bring the illah first and then the hikmah, or to bring the hikmah first and then the illah?
Hikmah first and then the illah.
Very good. The brother said to bring the hikmah first and then the illah. Did you get this point? That if you first say to someone who doubts, doubts in something, he doubts in the resurrection. Look, I don't believe that it's possible that God will bring us back to life. If you say you need to believe that God will bring you back to life, this is a fact. You can't deny that. And have you not thought about the way that God brings back to life the dead earth? Now you've got an uphill struggle. You've already put the illah out there and the person's already on the defensive. No, I don't believe that. And now you're trying to convince him. Come at it the other way. You don't believe in the resurrection. But have you ever pondered about how the earth is resurrected from the changing of the seasons? Don't you see how the earth at some time has nothing on it, and then all of a sudden you see green shoots, and then those shoots become into trees, and those trees bear fruit, and that fruit is something that we eat and we all enjoy. Isn't that a cycle of life and death? Okay, isn't that possible that God can do that with the earth? He can do that with His creatures. We need to believe that there is such a thing as resurrection. Which one is more powerful? The second one. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought the illah after He told us about the hikmah. Powerful. Narrating to the Quraysh, look at your life. Look at the phenomena around you. Look at the way you are benefiting from all of my creation. Then how can you, أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ, how can you deny these things? How can you make shirk with me? Very powerful. And subhanAllah, this can be used in every aspect of your life. In da'wah, in teaching your children, in dealing with, even in work, in education, every sphere of your life, you can use this. You can use this tool. That you want to convince other people of the truth, not for your own means, for the truth. Then take a lesson. Bring the hikmah before you bring the illah. Okay, and if you read some of the stories of the prophets, you find that when they debated with their people, they brought the reasoning before they brought the end argument. Okay. Inshallah, we'll stop here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.